And I wouldn't normally criticize, but he and Charlie Munger did choose to go up on stage and answer questions and give financial guidance and advice.
Okay, MicroStrategy founder Michael Saylor, on a recent episode of the PBD podcast, just absolutely slammed Warren Buffett for his take on inflation, his take on Bitcoin. The full episode of the PBD podcast is linked down below. Awesome podcast. Watch the full episode. But here's that Michael Saylor clip, and I'll react along the way.
If you're a wealthy American, if you're Warren Buffett, we have a very famous example, a video that's going viral on Twitter. 13-year-old girl says to Warren Buffett, I'm really worried about the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency of the world. We're printing lots and lots of dollars, and if we're not the reserve currency, the value of the dollar is going to collapse. We're going to have hyperinflation. What should I do, Mr. Buffett?
Over the past few years, the Federal Reserve has telegraphed that they intend to monetize the debt by printing trillions of dollars, even as they insist that they're fighting inflation. Already, other major economies in the world, such as China, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil, are moving away from the dollar in anticipation of this. My question is, are we likely to face a time in the future when the U.S. dollar is no longer the global reserve currency? How is Berkshire prepared for this possibility? And what can we do as American citizens to attempt to shelter ourselves from what's beginning to look like the beginnings of de-dollarization?
Well, I should ask you to come up here and answer some questions. I mean,
what should I do, Mr. Buffett? And I wouldn't normally criticize, a respected, successful business person of his age. But he and Charlie Munger did choose to go up on stage and answer questions and give financial guidance and advice and investment advice, and they are looked up to. And so you watch Warren Buffett answer the question, and his answer is, well, yeah, I mean, I guess the Fed inflated the money, but they needed to. And, it's really difficult, and politics have a difficult problem. And, yeah, you're right, it is a problem. And Munger will say, the dollar's going to zero. It's going to zero. They know it's a problem. And then he kind of meanders through it with an end advice, which is, well, I don't know, but, America's a great country.
It's very interesting. I mean, we are the reserve currency. And I see no option for any other currency to be the reserve currency. And I think that nobody understands the situation better than Jay Powell. And but he's not in control of fiscal policy. And every now and then he drops a few hints. And there was no question that when the pandemic broke out, I mean, it was a semi-war-like situation, but nobody knows how far you can go with the paper currency before it gets out of control. And particularly if you're the world's reserve currency. Nobody knows the answer to that.
So Warren Buffett, yes, he's still answering the question. I'm going to let that play, then we'll immediately go to Michael Saylor. I just want you to be able to have the full context, like always.
It's easy for America to do a lot. But if we do too much, it's very hard to see how you recover once you let the genie out of the bottle and people lose faith in the currency. And they behave in an entirely different manner than they do when they feel that if they put some money in the bank or have a pension plan or whatever it may be, that they're going to get out something with roughly equal purchasing power. And it just changes the economy, and all kinds of things can happen then. And I can't predict them, and nobody else can predict them, but I do know they aren't good. And we will see. And I do this as I voted for both parties, and it's not limited to politicians of either party or anything of the sort. People take positions. Some of them understand what they're doing. Some of them don't understand what they're doing. If they put me on some medical board, I don't understand what I'm doing. It's not that there's nothing wrong with the fact that you can't master everything. We can't all be Isaac Newton, but you can't go around pretending you do or making decisions on it. And we are not as well off in relation to curbing inflation expectations, which become self-fulfilling, then we are not as well off as we were earlier. And Berkshire is better prepared than most investments for that kind of a period. But I said this in the annual report, but we aren't perfectly prepared because there's no way to perfectly prepare. You don't know what course of action will occur. And it's a very political decision now. It's a tribal decision to some degree. And you hope for leadership that actually will do something, recognizes the problem. And America's an incredible society, rich. We got everything going for us, but that doesn't mean we can just print money indefinitely, but as debt. And it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Was that a good answer? Well, Michael Saylor had this to say about Warren Buffett. Whenever we get these notable people speaking about cryptocurrency, I will make a video, so make sure you subscribe for daily updates.
And then he kind of meanders through it with an end advice, which is, well, I don't know, but America's a great country. Don't bet against America. But the blood-curdling, terrifying, depressing, takeaway from the clip is the 13-year-old girl knows what the problem is. The country's full of people that can articulate the problem and write 1,000-page books on the problem. If you're rich in America, you don't have the answer because you're too comfortable, right? And so what you've got is a bunch of mega billionaires that are very successful in America, but they don't have an answer or solution to the 13-year-old girl. The solution to the question was Bitcoin, right? And Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger can't allow themselves to understand that because they're so successful, they don't need to open their mind to and embrace a new idea. If Warren Buffett woke up tomorrow and his bank seized all of his assets and they were devalued to zero, and he was a pauper, and his neighbor, the Uber driver, was walking around with $100,000 worth of Bitcoin on a hardware wallet, Warren would say, "What is that again? Explain that to me."
Yeah.
What do you mean? My government, my bank can't steal all my money? That's a pretty good idea, right? And so I think that when you're a refugee from fleeing Iraq or you're crossing the border, and when you try to go through an airport and a hostile regime steals all your money and seizes all your gold, when you have to flee your 1,000-acre or 10,000-acre farm in Africa because a hostile regime decided it was illegal for people like you to own land, when that happens, you become a believer in a non-sovereign store of value crypto asset network, which is what Bitcoin is. The people that came to this country, the Huguenots, the settlers, the colonists, I think they understood it. I mean, they had all their property seized from them from wherever they came from. And their idea was, here's a place where I can own something and people might not steal it from me. As soon as they got here, people started trying to steal it from them again, right? That's the human condition.
Just slower.
Just slower. But that's why they kept going west. It's like, I got to go west where there's no politicians to steal it from me, right? And that's a pretty powerful driver. So I think that the conclusion is people that are comfortable, they're fat, dumb, and happy in the United States are going to continue to reject new ideas like crypto assets, like Bitcoin, because they don't have to. If I don't have to embrace a new idea, when I get to a certain age, I won't. And that is as old as the Thomas Kuhn structure of scientific revolution. He said, paradigm shifts only get embraced in times of war or when the old guard dies.
Wow. I think Michael Saylor said some very poignant things. And finally, for the first time ever on that same podcast, Michael Saylor spoke about Bitcoin Ordinals. Bitcoin Ordinals are a catalyst for adoption, says Saylor. Every time someone builds an application that's cool on Bitcoin, like all the Ordinals and inscriptions, and whatever that are driving up transaction fees, it's a catalyst. And in crazy, surprising news, a big win for meme coins in general, but especially Pepe, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss just added Pepe to Gemini Exchange. When Pepe? Today. Pepe is now available for deposits on Gemini. And by the way, I don't own Pepe. I wish I did. I wish I would have been crazy enough, 2 weeks ago to buy some. I didn't. Also, for those of you who will be in Miami, May 18th for the Bitcoin conference, I did put out a contest on our Twitter. Win 2 tickets to the comedy show Web3's a Joke. But links down below. I hope to see you there.